The new body card that is all the rage right now is just around the corner, and with it will come new changes to both the decks at the very top of the standard format, but also the way a lot of these decks are built. They chip all an attack, stopping all of your opponent's item cards during their next turn is crazy good to slow them down while standing up behind it, especially because you don't even need an energy to attack with it in order to get the effect. Of course, you can play your own body, but what happens in a body versus body stalemate? If both players are getting slowed down, you want to be able to still set up and eventually overcome your opponent with a better or stronger setup. So I'm sure you might be wondering how to adapt your favorite deck and what changes should you consider to deal with body. Well, here's a few suggestions with what I think will be the top performing decks once the new set arrives. Don't forget that you can watch videos 24 hours earlier if you become a channel member by following the link in the description below. This kind of support helps me continue to create content like this, so please consider becoming a channel member if you enjoy the content. Dragapult DX is a deck which all things are pointing to it being one of the best, if not the best deck after Body comes out. It has been doing quite well in Japan since Body was released, and the first change you need to do is play Body itself in this deck, possibly even 2 copies. Dragapult decks love having time to set up, get energy on the board, and not be rushed by aggressive and fast-paced decks. Body buys you that time very well, and also makes cards like Iona or Countercatcher even stronger after your body has fallen and you have your full setup. Not to mention, Dracloak's Recon Directive is very helpful to still see a lot of cards when under your opponent's body item lock, which brings me to the next card to include, Lance. This card has been very controversial and for some reason has only been heavily played in Japanese builds of Dragapult, but not in the TPCI regions. I have a feeling this will change, as being able to find Dreepies early on without body puffin, or Dracloaks and Dragapults to finish setting up even under item lock is going to be very important, and Lance is a fantastic card to help with that. With Body and Lance, as well as a healthy supporting lineup of Dusclops, Dusknoir, and maybe even Klefki, Dragapult DX is poised to be one of the biggest winners from having Body in the metagame and in its deck itself. Gardevoir EX is another of the biggest winners from Body entering the metagame, since it really enjoys hiding behind the item lock to have extra breathing room to set up a bunch of Ralts and Kirlias to then start sniping and one-KOing things with Drifloon and Scrimtail. Gardevoir thrives in slower paced metagames, and now it can slow down the game itself, which is great. Other than Body, it's likely we see the second Technical Machine Evolution getting put back into a deck in order to make sure you have access to it early on and it isn't priced when you search for it with Arven. If your opponent has you under item lock, you still want a reliable way to get your Kirlias out to start using Refinement to help you in getting set up and then start taking prizes. With the deck being fine with a single turn of items to get Ralts out, as well as TM Evo to help evolve under item lock, Gardevoir EX will likely be back on top in both results and popularity once Body hits the metagame. Cerulegiax is a deck that hasn't really stood out in the competitive environment at the highest level of play. Sure, you might encounter the deck a lot when playing on TCG Live, but at regionals it really hasn't shown up at all. However, the deck does stand out in a slower metagame where Body exists, since it is not heavily affected by it. All it needs to do to adapt is start playing even higher energy counts in case you can't use Earthen Vessel to search out energy during a certain turn, as well as a robust 4/4 line of Cerulegiax, so you have a chance to set one up early under item lock when you can't use an Ultra Ball. In a slower format where Dragapult DX and Gardevoir EX become a lot better, and our Chaludan EX is enjoying time in the spotlight by being able to tank hits and heal immediately with Professor Turo scenario, Cerulegiax comes in with the threat of taking anything in front of it in one hit after discarding enough energy, and that could put a dent in the slow but steady plans of these sort of decks. Also, switching its safe spec into Legacy Energy means it won't have issues with a Prime Catcher or Brilliant Blender getting stopped by Body, and it's a very powerful card itself overall. Our Chaludan EX is one of the biggest winners of a slower format thanks to Body. This deck's use and dominance in online tournaments have been exponential since it won the Osaka Champions League, and could prove to be a contender even before Body gets released in the upcoming regional championships. However, with Body and the format shying away from the aggression, this huge tanky Pokemon will very likely be a deck to watch out for, and the combination with Dialga V-Star for the Amazing Star Chronos V-Star attack should never be underestimated. With its own body, high HP basic, and tankiness, as well as heavy jamming tower or lost CDUs to counter Gardevoir, I expect this deck to be one of the most popular and powerful as well in the upcoming weeks. Regidrago V-Star seems to be one of the most impacted decks with Body in the metagame, as well as the rise of our Chaludan, which is a problematic matchup with no way to take it down in one hit after it removes its own weakness to remove Radiant Charizard as an option. With Energy Switch, Ultra Ball and Earthen Vessel blocked, the deck will struggle to get that first attack on turn 2, and even just one extra turn will be a huge relief for most decks going up against Regidrago. The way this deck can adapt to the early item lock is by playing a couple copies of Crispin, as that can help accelerate energy onto the board to be ready for the attack, but it doesn't solve the issue of needing to find and discard the right dragon type attacker. Another adaptation that can be included is the Power Glass tool, which helps power up an active Regidrago whilst under item lock and be ready for the next turn. Neither of these options are great solutions though, and it seems like Buddy will make Regidrago give up the best deck in the format throne it has been sitting on for so long now. Charizard EX is another of the most impacted decks by Body's existence, specifically because it blocks any possibility of turn 2 Pidgeot EX plus Charizard EX attacking right away. The deck now needs to play Grand Tree in order to speed up its evolution, and with only a single copy available, there's always a risk of it being priced in a crucial moment. It also needs to add copies of the Stage 1 Pokemon in order to evolve through them into the Stage 2, and so this occupies deck space you could otherwise need for other utility options. And no, Charizard EX's ability doesn't activate if you evolve through Grand Tree, so you will need to evolve into Charmeleon first, and then play down the Charizard to get its ability. Or if you're lucky, you'll attach one energy the turn you played on Charmander, and then one the next when you fully evolve into Charizard EX through Grand Tree to start attacking. Less reliance on the explosive Fur Candy means a turn 3 attack is now the most likely scenario, and that one turn difference is a huge thing in the power and threat levels of this deck. The last change you might want to consider though is adding a Heat Tackle Charmander so that you can KO the Body with it and free yourself from the item lock. Those decks are the most affected by Body, but with Regidrago and especially Charizard coming down in raw strength, there are other decks that will benefit from this and are also unaffected by an early item lock for the most part. Miraidon EX is not severely affected by the presence of Body, as usually all it needs is one very explosive turn to set up, and it can use Ampu very much on the poor Body to take an extra prize and limit any prize disadvantage it could have faced, or quickly deal with it with 2 straightforward attachments onto a Raikou V. Of course, you won't be able to play any further Electric Generator as long as Body does its thing, but it shouldn't be for more than a turn, and then you're free to play them afterwards as you will not find yourself under item lock the whole game. Ancient Box is another deck not really affected by Body, as it can easily deal with it after one turn and has a healthy amount of supporters, as well as being okay with a single turn of items before going under the lock. This deck's biggest gain from Body is Charizard EX and Regidrago V-Star going down in raw strength, and therefore giving this deck more breathing room in the metagame to succeed. And whilst Dragapult EX would normally be a bad matchup, you can include a copy of Munkidori to help mitigate the damage from Phantom Dive and also help power your own damage output as well. And finally we have Lugia V-Star, which thoroughly enjoys decks taking their time to set up as it gives it more time to discard those Archeops, and Read the Wind is the perfect attack to still be able to set up under item lock. Not only does Lugia handle the item lock perfectly fine, but it gains this new Regigigas with a Jewel Breaker attack, which is the perfect answer to any Charizard, Dragapult, or any other Terra based decks roaming around, and it just makes an already good deck even better. It's crazy to think how one single card will have such a ripple effect in the metagame, but it's almost a premonition to the upcoming standard format rotation from F to G format, which will also have a big effect and many changes with the loss of key cards such as Radiant or V-Star Pokemon. Either way, we are in for an exciting time, and a much needed refresh of the game, as at the very top, the decks have basically remained the same for the last 4 to 6 months, so I'm happy to welcome the new Body and the changes it promises to bring. Thank you so much for watching, don't forget to subscribe and how you think things will change with the upcoming Prismatic Evolutions set. Until next time! If you want to support the channel, you can use code tablemon to get 5% off at Potent Store for your online codes, 10% off for your sealed product at Flipside Gaming, and 10% off on your aluminum accessories at TC Evolutions. Or if you're looking to buy singles or sleeves, you can fill up your cart and close the tab, then click on the affiliate link in the description and check out. That way you can support the channel over at TCG Player, Card Market, and Dragon Shield. ¿Eres de México y necesitas cartas de Pokémon? Busca Hyperbeam Cards en Facebook e Instagram. Y si estás en Tijuana, búscalos en el local C27 en el Centro Comercial Otay.